Of all days, there had to be people on my neighbor's roof. Like, literally, it's hilarious because, like, I look over on, like, literally the edge of the bottom of my window. There's people. And I'm just like, I don't know. That's weird. Hey guys, it's Kitten, and this video is another past life video. Yay! Finally, after like 5 months, somewhere around there, 5 months, but I don't know, I'm just guessing, honestly. This will probably disappoint a lot of my older subscribers and older viewers because you know that I have kind of postponed the second half of my Scottish past life video. This is not the part 2 that you're looking for. This is another past life. The particular reason why I'm not doing part 2 yet is because I know that one I really need to like prep for because I've kind of forgotten what I've talked about in part 1. And I know for a fact from already kind of recording part of that it's gonna be a while. Like, it's gonna be a long video and I really need to prep for that. Now that I've already kind of recorded most of that video, but then I lost it. I think I know like what to say, what not to say, pick and choose of how to make the video shorter. This past life video is going to be covering my Japanese past life video. I probably will eventually do a follow-up for this life. Particularly the French and this life, I'll probably do a follow-up video because I know so little about them. And I was originally gonna make my ancient Rome past life video, but I kind of felt uncomfortable talking about that one, mostly because it involves particularly someone that I don't know. I need to ask, I think, permission for that one. I don't know. I feel kind of a little bit uncomfortable talking about that one for some reason. I have no idea. But we're gonna talk about my Japanese one. Yay. My Japanese past life, as far as I know, is the only male life I've ever had. There still could be other lives that could have potentially been male, but they're not very, I guess, like, willing to be seeked out, I guess. I don't know how to put it. There's past lives, I've explained this already, but like with past lives, some past lives are so saturated that's really easy to like connect to. Like my Egyptian one, like that was my first one, like it's very saturated, a lot of things happened. And it's the one that like was most willing to like be here. Memories and shit. So there probably is other lives. I have a feeling there is, but I know that those are probably not going to be as willing to give up stuff. My Japanese one, I think, is the one that I've always kind of knew was there. It confused me that he was male because a lot of the cultural things with Japan, I'm more interested in the female stuff, except for the most part, it's mostly female stuff I'm mostly interested in Japanese culture. Like geisha and kimonos and mannerisms and tea ceremonies, and I'm more interested in that than like the male aspects, which I found like weird because like I was a guy in that life. It's weirder because I know he was at least like, he was really into women but bisexual, or was like super straight. I get a feeling that he was like me in this life, bi, but was preferably straight, but he kind of, I think he admired the male form, but he was not willing to actually do anything. I honestly think he was bisexual. more so straight on that spectrum, but still in the middle, is how I think he was. Mostly because I know he really liked boobs. Like, he really liked boobs. I know he did. Because I really like boobs, and I know I got that from him. I also know that I got my sense of humor from him, which I find interesting because it never really registered to me, but I really do actually like the Japanese humor. Like I said, I don't know a lot about this life. I know he was a guy. I know he was a little bit of a perv like me. He had a dirty mind like me. These are all feelings. I have no concrete evidence yet, but these are all feelings that I've had. Well, actually, the concrete evidence that I have for him, most definitely concrete, is that I know he was the life before this one. That's like concrete, like that's set in stone. I know that for sure. Like, he was the life right before this one, which I find kind of funny, since I've kind of narrowed down the general time frame of when he was alive, but it's like really general. Like, I don't know honestly when, but I do know it was at least in the 1800s. Like, in that 100-year time frame is when he was alive. I know this because the life right before him was in the mid-1700s, which was the French life. So it's me, him, the French life, and then however else the timeline is. But I do know that it was, like, he was definitely in the 1800s, which I found a little interesting because I do feel slightly connected to the 1800s, like the European 1800s, or like watching a TV show or watching a movie that's set in the 1800s. Like, I remember, like, ooh, that's interesting, I like this, like, I like how they dress, I like how their mannerisms are in like the European aspect of the 1800s, but it never really like clicked for me. But the Edo era in Japan, the Edo era in Japan is like from the early 1700s to like the end of, like, around the end of the 1800s. So the Edo era, he would have definitely been in. In the Edo era for me, oh my god. Like, I feel so connected to that shit. I don't care about the eras before Edo era, but my god. Like, the Edo era is my shit. It's like, everything about that time in Japan is like so fascinating to me. It's the reason why I actually took Asian history in college, I think it was what it was called. It pretty much covered the history of Japan, China, Korea, around like those countries. And the only reason I took it is because it would cover Japan, and I was just like, yes. And that's the only reason I took it. Like, I remember like learning about China and Korea and Vietnam, and I'm just like, I don't care. Get to Japan. That's all I care about. And I'm gonna be honest, I failed everything else that involved other countries, but with Japan, I was just like, A's or B's, or like, I passed. I'm not very good at taking tests, but I passed with Japan. And I was just like, yes, this is great. There's one thing that I did learn with that class that I didn't know about, was that America actually kind of literally knocked on Japan's door in like the mid-1800s. This was back when like technology was ships, like they were steamships, I think. They were the big metal ones, but they weren't like the really advanced ones we have now, but they were really big metal ones. And the story goes that like this American captain with his big giant metal ship was like, I'm gonna sail over Japan and be like, hey, you need to like actually talk to the other countries because your isolation shit is not working for everyone. Because for those of you that don't know, Japan was like literally the only country besides like countries in Africa, like the only Asian country that was so isolated with fair trade that country, like Japan, was so well known to have like a very isolated like constant culture for hundreds of years because they didn't get influenced by Western culture, which I find honestly endearing and really fascinating because for some reason Japanese culture, I know in like with Japanese people and Japan in general, culture is tradition and culture are very important. If you fuck with that, it's very bad. It just is. And I kind of found it endearing that like, not endearing, but like I kind of respected that Japan isolated itself so much from Western culture because culture and tradition is so important. And that's something I find, particularly in this life, very fascinating and very sought after. Like, I really like tradition, I really like culture, like traditional culture. Like, for me, that's very fascinating and I really like it. Because of that, like, I know that if I ever do go to Japan, I will go seek out like historical traditional locations, like shrines. I'm probably gonna visit a lot. Let's be honest. Probably gonna visit a lot of shrines. I'm probably gonna go to Kyoto because Kyoto is kind of like the most well known for its traditional, old-fashioned buildings and shops. So with me, for all my life, I know the Japanese culture and tradition really resonated with me, like the samurai way, the emperors, the warlords, the like common people, like all of Japan I just really connected with very well. It's one of the reasons why I like to seek out historical Japanese anime and manga. I mean, come on, like I know that like with a lot of people like the modern day like magical, fantasy and sci-fi themed stuff like the Gundam animes and mangas, I know people really enjoy. Not saying I don't, because I really love that shit, but I know that I really specifically seek out the historical stuff. There's one anime where this chick loses all her money or something because of her dad, and she ends up like getting seeking refuge in this shrine, and this god is like, oh, I don't like you, but I'm gonna leave you here, and like there's the romance and it's cute, and like even stuff like that where like the god is traditional, like it's a traditional god that's at a shrine and stuff, and there's like a very heavy influence of Japanese culture in it. I really like stuff like that. Like it's very interesting to me, and also like learning about like the different Japanese deities, like I really like to learn about. For some reason I really connect with like samurai for some reason, though I don't know, like my past life, I don't know if he was a samurai. I get the feeling that he was, but I don't think he was too, I mean like he was serious about it, but he wasn't like, it didn't rule his life. I think he didn't choose to let it rule his life. I do know his personality though. I get the feeling that he was a bit flirty, maybe a tad bit shy, but I know he was very outgoing and flirty. I know that for a fact. But I also get this feeling that he had this very dark, intense side to him that he didn't let people see, I think. And a part of me thinks that something tragic happened to him. Someone died that he loved. Maybe like actual family, like parents, or like a sibling. or like a lover might have been killed. I don't know. I get this feeling that something tragic happened to him. I don't know when in his life, but I get this feeling that something tragic did happen, and it changed him. I think it made him a little more dark and intense. I think I think he did keep the flirty side of him only to mask the dark, intense side of him, is what I'm getting. I say this particularly because the trailer for that new game, The Ghost of
Tsushima.
Tsushima. I really don't know how to pronounce words, but that video game where it's set in like 1240 something, I don't know. It's pretty much the time when the Mongols or the Chinese were like, I'm gonna invade everything. That's when like the Mongols then invaded Japan and were like, I'm gonna invade Japan and it's gonna be awesome and shit. And this particular samurai had, what I can see from the trailer, the samurai had his family murdered by the Mongols. He pretty much becomes like a ninja. Like he was originally a samurai, but like with something like this, like the trailer said, like he has to not go the traditional honorable way of a samurai to kill. And for some reason, like watching that trailer, like I've watched it so many goddamn times, but for some reason that trailer really stuck to me. Like the visual, like the like the scenery of the game, seeing the main character that we are ending up gonna play in the game, like seeing him train and seeing him like do the traditional like samurai stuff, like with the raging the katana and traditional stuff. Like I really, when I was watching it, I got this really like big sense of connection and respect, and I really like, I don't know why, like that's why I'm like, especially with like the part where it shows like the armor burning off of the samurai, and you see like what I'm guessing his wife getting burnt to death, and like the Mongol leader talking to him, that really like struck a chord with me in a tragic way. I think honestly something similar may have happened to him. Another thing that I've always kind of felt connected with was the Ronin samurai. Ronin samurai are not your traditional samurai. Like Ronin samurai are wanderers. They don't have, I guess, specific master that they call to, I guess, or follow. The reason why they're wanderers is like something about like their masters getting murdered or killed or they die. So traditionally I don't think you're like supposed to seek out another master to serve as a samurai. I mean, I think you can, but I guess he decided not to, or he became a wanderer. Found Ronin samurai fascinating, and I really connected with them, their way of life particularly. And I know in traditional Japanese culture, Ronin samurai were seen as disgraceful, like shameful, like bad people that you want to avoid because they are cowards, in a sense, I guess, is how the Japanese culture saw them. For some reason, I feel really connected to that specific samurai. And I think, honestly, something happened with him that caused him to go rogue, or Ronin, or whatever you want to call it. And he ends up becoming a wanderer. And another reason why I say, like, I feel really connected with the Ronin samurai is because Rurouni Kenshin?
Rurouni
I
Kenshin.
can't say his name. But the anime I remember watching as a kid, he was a samurai, but he wandered. Like, he was a wandering samurai. And for some reason, as a kid, I really connected with that way of life. So honestly, I honestly think that he was raised and he was an honorable, like he was very good honorable samurai, but something happened and his life changed and became a Ronin. And I honestly, this is all speculation, but I honestly think that's what happened with him. Getting all these like physical feelings of me talking about this kind of confirms the fact that I think I'm right with those situations of his life I think are true. This whole video I'm having like physical reactions where I know like if I'm hitting like the bullseye on some things, I know that I'm gonna feel physical in a different certain way. And when I started talking about like this tragic thing happening with him, I started to feel that specific physical way, and I'm just like, that's, I think I got what I am looking for. So yeah, I know that I'm gonna do a follow-up for this life because like I said, like this is all speculation. I don't have any way of actually proving this yet. I will eventually. I really want to. For the majority of my life, I know he's been rather quiet. Like he's one of those like past lives that doesn't like to reveal much, and I think that's honestly why I think that tragic thing happening did happen, because that does change you. That makes you quieter, it makes you more intense, and I think that did happen because of that, which honestly explains so much. Because if he did have a loved one killed or murdered and taken away from him, that kind of translates into this life, because I also have a fear of losing people I love. Like that's a legit fear I have, like whether it's from their choice or a car crash or death or something like that. Like it's always like not a constant fear, but it is like a subconscious fear I have in this life, and that honestly kind of explains a lot with my Japanese life, because if you did lose someone or like people, like it doesn't have, like I don't know if it's like a single person or multiple, but like he did lose someone or some people, that changes you, that makes you more not dependent, but it makes you fearful of losing the people you do have. And I am very much like that. I'm very afraid of losing the people I do have. I promise you I'm going to do a follow-up for this video because it deserves a follow-up, I think. I hope you enjoyed this really rambly, long video. I don't know how long it is. I hope it's not too long. I don't know. Either way, I hope you like and subscribe. And yeah, I feel like shit. I'm gonna go relax and stuff after this. So yay, go like and subscribe if you want to hear more about my fancy past lives. They're not very fancy, except my French life. That's pretty fancy. Very fancy. And yeah, let me know which past life you really want to know about. Like I'm pretty excited about my alien past lives, because the past like few months I've been like, I really want to talk about them, but I'm also afraid to, because there's some stuff in one of my particular alien past lives that I know is going to be like really controversial, and there's probably going to like, it touches a little bit on like conspiracy theories, and I know people are going to like, if people actually watch that video, they're going to be like, oh my god, conspiracy theories confirmed and shit like that. Yeah, so if you want to watch those, let me know.